Hi, it's the 3rd of June 2017. I haven't stood before the camera for a couple of weeks. I've been awfully busy weeding and planting. So here's what the allotments look like now. On the left, the original allotment with potatoes and peas and brassicas. And on the right, more peas, the row of gooseberry bushes with some interesting straw heaps between them, and sweet corn and tomatoes and potatoes. We've got quite a lot of potato patches. We did have a little bit of a cold wind and it cut back half of my runner beans, which I planted possibly a week too early. The interesting thing is that just the 5 plants on the left side here were okay, they weren't touched. And then all the other ones were withered to a crisp. There's a dead plant. But what I've found with runner beans is that even when they get frosted, they do start to grow again from under the ground. I think this is because they leave their cotyledons under the ground. Have you noticed that bush beans, French beans kind of things, they heave up their cotyledons and kind of wave them about in the air, but the climbing beans, they leave them under the ground. And maybe they do it because it is a bit more risky climbing and they may need a bit of extra reserves down there. Who knows? On the new allotment I got a couple of bales of straw. I thought I'll try this mulch thing. It doesn't quite cover the whole plot and I don't know if it's deep enough. These are borlotti beans, I believe. I was worried that the slugs would kind of hide under the straw and nibble off all the buds, but so far it's been so dry. We did have one patch of heavy rain and since then we've had nothing. So in the southeast of England at least, maybe it's okay to have straw around your plants. So I made lots of like teepees for the climbing beans. I've got several different kinds. There's one, and there's another one, and there's another one. And beyond that, I can't remember what all these are, but these are going to be French beans. And these are the only ones I didn't transplant from pots. I planted the seeds in the ground. There's one coming up. I know there's another one over there. In fact, 2 over there. Oh, and one down there. And in fact, what I just said about climbing beans leaving their cotyledons under the ground, it applies to the runner beans. It doesn't seem to apply to the French beans. So, must be more observant. This is what I've been spending most of my time doing, pulling up the couch grass and the bindweed, which keeps coming up through my wonderful several layers of mulch. This is the pea plant that came up from a pea we must have missed that just fell into the ground last autumn. And already it's got pods and it's looking really good, which encourages me to think we should plant our peas in the autumn, because it's well ahead of anything we've planted in the spring. These are the peas Chris planted this spring. They're starting to go up the wire, nowhere near flowering. And then down here we've got the climbing peas, the tall peas. Again, these are the ones that grew from peas that were left in the soil over winter. Aren't they pretty? I think they're called Carobidemozan. I'm not entirely sure. And this is another type of climbing pea that Chris planted. We're going to have to put some more wire for them to go up. They've reached the top of the first layer. And the broad beans that I actually did plant in the autumn, this side, the side that faces the wind, has got a dreadful attack of black fly. You can see how they're leaning away from the wind. And they've also got quite a bit of rust on the leaves, but lots and lots of beans coming. They're quite fat. I had some for my dinner last night. We've earthed up most of the potatoes. We did the garlic a couple of times, but it's looking rather yellow and I don't know if it's going to come to anything. Well, it was yellow last year and we still had some garlic bulbs, so we'll see. Give it a bit longer. It probably wants watering. I know that oniony type things can get rust and some kind of fluffy mould around their roots, but it has been very dry. I think they want water more than anything. There's the onion bed, planted by Chris. weeded and watered by yours truly. Finally, a year when I managed to get my leeks in early. In previous years, it's about this time I'd be thinking about planting seeds in a pot and waiting for a bare patch to put them in. This year we've got 2 allotments, so there's room, and in they've gone. Main crop sweet corn. Yeah, they didn't all germinate. I think the seeds were old, so I got 9 in various states of patheticness. And then I put in a row of new seeds that I bought. 1, 2, 3, they haven't come up yet. And then Chris bought some from the allotment shop, so there's another row of 6 there. These are the mini pop sweet corn. I planted them earlier. They're coming along quite nicely. And these are the chickpeas. And you can see by looking at them they're not peas at all. They look more like vetch. Not flowering yet. And oh dear, they need weeding. Brussels sprouts. One died, so I put in a kale in its place. More Brussels sprouts. And cabbages. The cabbages are actually burgeoning, I would say. And over on the first allotment, I think these are broccoli. And I had more lettuces than I could cope with in the polytunnel, so I planted them here. Unfortunately, the lettuces in the polytunnel are actually supplying us with all our needs, because they're such big lettuces. We only pick off, I don't know, 4 or 5 leaves every day, and then they grow again. So we have a surfeit of lettuce. Maybe I should try it for insomnia. It's supposed to send you to sleep, isn't it? This is also broccoli. It started to produce little flower head spears. I had one for my dinner last night. Very tender. This is the first time I've tried tomatoes outside. But now we've got enough space for all these things. It's so nice to be able to try things. They were looking distinctly unhappy. They'd been fighting to get out of their pots in the polytunnel for the last month or so. There's even a kind of a tomato on this one. I must get out the old tomato food. And these are butternut squash. This one's not doing terribly well. This one's doing a lot better. It's odd because they're in the same row. And this one's reasonable. And this one, they're all sending out their shoots in the same direction. If I'd known they were all going to go that way, I might have planted them a bit further back in this direction. But maybe I'll put some beans in here. Oh look, the courgette's flowering. That's a good sign. The slugs haven't fought their way through my straw mulch and chewed up all the buds. But I will be interested to know what happens if we get a downpour of rain, which we haven't done for such a long time now. Do the slugs come out and massacre everything then? Do they hide under the straw, waiting their moment? We'll see. So what are these funny little heaps? Well, I had some squash seeds. 3 different varieties. I thought, well, I'll just grow 2 of each. By the time I came to look what space was left, there wasn't that much space. I was planning to put them in the ground on the new allotment, but there's that thick layer of matted, tangled roots to dig through, and the ground is probably not rich enough. So I kind of combined the idea of the Hugelkultur with the straw mulch idea, and I made heaps. Not tiny heaps, but well, they're kind of smallish heaps of compost, and I think it's mainly compost actually. Covered them with soil, planted the squashes into the soil on the top, smothered them in slug pellets, and coated the whole thing with straw to keep the moisture in. And all I can do is wait and see what they do. I put these 2 between the Lonicera cerulea, the berry-producing honeysuckle, because they're quite small little shrubs at the moment, and although I'm hoping they will fill the border, at the moment they're not filling it. And over here I'll put 2 more on top of my matted mulch. And then the last 2, again, between the gooseberries on the gooseberry border. Seed beds got mixed results. Funny how one end of the seed bed always seems to produce a lot of carrots, and then if you get further down the row they thin out so much. It's the same over here. On this one I've got a row of supposed parsnips and then a row of carrots in the middle, and you can't see any sign of any carrots until you get right up to this end, and then there's a little bunch of them all at the end. Beetroots are coming through actually, they're the easiest thing apparently. They've all come up nicely and I've thinned them and weeded them and there they are. But over here, only 2 parsnips. The other ones might still be thinking about it though. I've eaten the radishes long since. And what's this? Somebody left me a little present in the shed. I think it must have been our neighbour because I gave him my leftover kale. I couldn't find enough places to plant it. There's some kind of cucurbit, and they've got quite a long stem, so could they be marrows? Could they be squashes? I don't think they're courgettes because courgettes have a rosette shape. So I'm going to have to find somewhere to plant these, and I'm thinking in the orchard area. I've got a rough and ready mulch here. I didn't have hay or straw at the time, but I did have weeds, so that's what's gone on there. And it's suppressing the rest of the weeds. There's a few things growing through it, but it's a lot easier just to pick those out than to dig everything up. I had another look at some YouTube videos last night to find out other people's experiences of mulch, and apparently Ruth Stout said, oh, don't bother pulling up the weeds, just cover it with more hay. I don't know where she got her hay, but our supply of hay is strictly limited. We don't have the machinery to cut hay, we don't have any meadows to supply it, so we have to do what we can. No moths in the pheromone trap. Every single plum last year had a plum moth larva in it. And apparently the beginning of June is about the time they start to fly, so Chris went and got a pheromone trap. We'll see what we catch. Well, I've been watering for 2 hours. I've almost got round everything. I'll have to come back later, but for now, bye.